All right.
Worth a try.
Get out of here.
See, well,
You can be our public tonight.
Might learn something here tonight. There you go.
You're better than me then.
So I got something good out of it.
All right. Well, that's good to know.
Are we done with the assistant town administrator?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. We're here to serve.
Thank you.
Good evening. This is the Finance Committee meeting of August 7, 2018. The agenda for this evening, excuse me, is a financial update by Bonnie. The proposed budget calendar, which we have in front of us, we'll be looking at that. Member department review assignments. Each board member has several departments that we're responsible to review their budgets and bring our recommendations back to the Finance Committee along with the different departments. We'll discuss that. There's a CPC annual appointment, and I'm missing one line here. The Transportation Advisory Council has requested an alternate be assigned as well as our representative. We'll have member updates, minutes, and my favorite article, the adjournment. So with no further ado, Bonnie, if you give us a quick update and maybe what's happening with Munis. Or
Basically, we have rolled out the accounts payable and general ledger portion of the conversion as of July 1st. Fingers crossed we haven't had any failures or any, major problems. The only issues are, like training people. It's a brand new system. The departments have been really great about, actually reaching out and learning it. They participated in the classes that we taught all through the month of May and June. So Michelle and I have spent a lot of time with the departments, but they're doing really well. I appreciate the time that they're spending with it because, again, it's a very new system. It's a very different system. I would say that from the department standpoint, it's more difficult in order to use it, but it will provide a much more robust reporting product on the end, where our current product is very easy to use and has no reporting capabilities on the end. So, it's kind of a big change for them, but it's, knock on wood, it's going really well.
That's spent a lot of years implementing systems, and you don't usually hear that. So if you're doing that, you've done a good job.
Well,
usually they're
like I said, this is
character
just
building experiences.
This is phase one. So this is accounts payable and general ledger. So payroll will be the next big phase. We'll have some smaller pieces coming on, like fixed assets and bids through the fall. But payroll will be coming on in January or January-ish.
And one thing we were looking for in going to the Munis system was transparency.
Yes.
And having people be able to go in and look at different figures. And I reviewed the warrant template with Bonnie earlier this week, which I thought was really excellent, where each line item actually, in order to have it fill out and add into the warrant, it must have a description of what the money was actually being spent for, which heretofore we didn't have.
Right, it was just the vendor and the amount.
So, that's one little step that says transparency. You can see what we're spending and what we're spending it on.
Right.
Which I think is really excellent.
One of the big pieces of this is that it does interface with Microsoft SQL Report Writer. So Michelle and I have taken, probably a week's worth of classes last week or 2 weeks ago. We need some more, but we did design that template that you saw, which I think is much better than what we had. But just based on what we saw, it's very powerful. But we need to take a few more YouTube classes on it to really get the product working the way that we want. But it's pretty exciting. The Citizens Transparency module takes about a 60-day rollout for it. So Munis is coming out to my office again next week. And I'm going to try and kick that off so that now that we're starting to get data into the system, I want to roll that out so that in the next quarter we'll be able to start having people be able to look into things if they want to online. It'll be available through a link through the website. It'll be very easy. You can drill down right to the invoice level.
And do you have a target date for that rollout?
I will next week. I
Okay.
need to talk with them, but I've been told it's about a 60-day rollout to start doing that. So we're kind of excited about that.
And a target date for the payroll module?
January is our target date.
January 1, okay.
Yeah, we're hoping, but
Good.
it, just depends on
That's
how
when the
quickly we
hiccups
can get, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
I met my July 1st date, so that, I'm happy about that, but
good, good. All righty.
we're hopeful. And right now I am closing the books in SoftWrite, so my goal is to get that close completed this week so that I can pull totals forward into Munis starting next week, beginning balances. So I'll have a better picture at our next meeting where our end of year landed, but I'm pretty confident that we've, landed in the positive, so.
All righty. Any other questions for Bonnie on finance or Munis? Or-
No, maybe just I know that ALS is up and running. Is that, and the new, is that the, I guess the invoices of that, does that show up anywhere in the system at all? Is that completely separate when we're talking about
The
the?
invoicing for the services?
Yeah.
That's done,
ALS.
yeah, that's done through coastal billing, so
Right,
it
so-
is a completely separate agency that does the billing for that, and they keep up with all the Medicare changes, and it's
Yeah.
not something that you probably want to hire staff for here, because you need to have.
No, I just didn't know if it linked with where you'd see it.
Yeah,
with
we'll see the
actual-
receipts coming in.
That's what I mean, okay.
But you won't see the billings.
Right,
Per
okay.
se.
Yeah, that's privacy stuff.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Where does that?
Yeah, you'll see the receipts, the dollars coming in,
People's
but not
names
links
That's what I
and
to
so on, or not? No? Okay, good.
But at a summary level, if a citizen wanted to go in and see how the ALS program is doing financially, they can
Yes, you'll
drill
be able to-
down
yes.
and be able to do that. So, again, wherever we can
Yeah.
be transparent, we should do that. Okay? Okay, good. Anything else? No? Okay, Bonnie, you want to calendar?
Sure. So this is a draft budget calendar, so this is just my stab at the first draft at this. The selectmen have reviewed it. They did not provide any comments at this point. I think they're going to wait for your meeting that I had proposed for August 20th, Monday, August 20th, for the first joint meeting. But if there are any date changes that you think, we would need to make, I would encourage you to give me feedback on it at your earliest convenience. I highlighted the joint meetings in bold, so you can see the first one is scheduled for August 20th, and then we have another one for the 24th. I have one for Tuesday, October 23rd at the Fincom meeting. We have special town meetings scheduled for Monday, October 29th. And then on the back of the form, you can see we have 3 dates proposed, any of which would work for the joint capital and budget working session, that Saturday session. So we could either do December 15th, January 5th, or January 12th, whatever would work for the board, so you can kind of,
And the selectmen didn't really give you any feedback?
no
on what-
feedback at this point, but they have seen this. And then I have another joint meeting scheduled for the 21st of January, and another one in March on the 5th. We can add more in between if we need to, or drop any, but this is just kind of my first pass at it. The town meetings have been scheduled, so that October 29th town meeting date is fixed. I did submit some information in here regarding the printing of the booklet, when the warrant recommendations are due to the town administrator's office, which would be Tuesday, October 2nd. And I'm proposing that the capital and budget documents go out in October and be due back October 31st.
Okay.
November's pretty tight because we have the, upon close of the special town meeting, then I need to get the tax classification documents together. So it takes me a little bit of time to get everything balanced and into the recap form with the assessors and the treasurer. And we're proposing that the classification hearing be held on November 19th. Will get us in time for pretty much a December printing of the tax bills. So.
Anybody have any feeling on the joint capital and budget work session date?
Well, and looking at your schedule, I mean, you just talked about quite a bit right after the meet. Are you, December 15th doesn't pressure you to get?
It's a
I mean,
little pressure, but it's doable. You know, originally, people like to try and get it done in like the end of November and the beginning of December. That just doesn't, that's too much.
Yeah.
December 15th, I can manage.
Yeah, I think earlier is the better.
Okay, and again, if it works for Bonnie, you know, I think is really the key as far as I'm
Yeah, the
concerned.
15th's fine. That gives me time to do once December 1st comes, I'm pretty much done with the tax rate. And I can focus on the budget stuff.
Okay,
Historically better weather, but
And I think I've avoided
Yeah,
the
but people are
bazaar.
busier though in December, there's a lot more other things going on.
on the
So
Saturday,
it's
yeah, the Saturday before the Christmas.
Before Christmas, so,
yeah,
I don't know, I'm thinking January Saturdays are like, sure, sign me up.
right, and January 5th is before playoffs, so. So we'll have Greg.
Yeah. I have no preference at this time. I think, things change, but I know, when does this have to be finalized typically?
You know, when you meet with the selectmen,
Yeah,
you
it's the end of
can
the
make your
month.
decision. If it needs to be modified later, it always can. This is just kind of a guideline, with the exception of the town meeting dates. Those are,
Alan, you okay with January 5th?
Sure.
Is that, I mean.
I feel
think
strongly both
that's-
ways.
Yeah, no, I think, because. Can I have a motion on which date?
Move that we set January 5th, 2019 for the joint capital and budget work session.
I have a motion, can I have a
Second.
second? Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the joint capital and budget work session be scheduled for Saturday, January 5th, 2019? Vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
do you want me to book the police station for that again? Is that the better
I think so.
venue?
I think it's probably the best venue, isn't it? Either that or here, but,
Or the fire station, either one.
Yeah, we got the fire station.
well, have they got the bugs out of the system down there? or-
It seems to be working.
Okay.
There might be more parking at the fire station.
Well, I think the seating, actually, for that large a group, I know we ran into a little issue with all the selectmen and all, Fincom, and so I
Yeah.
think the fire station actually,
It has a wider,
A little better in the back, right?
so if it can happen, that would be great.
yeah. And I think the cable studio broadcast capabilities are better at the fire station
Are they?
than at the police station.
Okay.
Yeah, either way.
I'll defer to you on that.
Okay,
That's- I
I'll
mean,
check with Kirby.
Fire station, okay.
Closer to home.
January 19th is the MMA convention weekend, so it's probably not a good day for the selectmen because they went last year.
No, this is the 5th.
Is that the joint, did you say joint
Yeah,
budget meetings?
The 5th.
Oh, I thought you said January 19th.
Nope, 5th.
Oh, all right, okay.
It's okay.
Then that works.
2019. 2019.
Be there.
2019.
Okay. All right. Anything else on the calendar that jumps out at anybody?
Looks good.
Okay, and we'll have another bite at the apple on the 20th with a joint meeting with the selectmen. So if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to bring them up at that time. Okay. And earlier I handed out last year's member department review assignments. And if anybody has a burning desire to change your assignment, we can reallocate, or we could just assign them all to Perel and Champney because they're not here.
Wave to the camera.
We just have to update the department heads.
Right, right. But, I mean,
I'm fine with
if everybody's okay, we just stay with what we did last year. And if not,
Perfectly happy.
okay. All right, so we'll plan on doing that. And the next two items are annual appointments. The last several years, I've been the Fincom's representative on the CPC. It meets less than once a month. It's not a big-time commitment. But I think it's a worthwhile activity. So is anybody interested in taking that on as an assignment? Or if not, I'll stay with it. But if is anybody interested, I'd be more than happy to have them
I
take
got
a shot.
enough.
I mean, I can do it if you're just trying to get stuff off your plate, which I think is, you mentioned before, doing this, that you'd kind of like to, I'd be happy to take care of that, so you don't
Okay,
focus on your fine duties here.
okay. Anybody want to run against her?
No.
Make a fight out of it, right?
We know better.
All righty, have a motion to appoint Betsy as our CPC rep for the next.
So moved.
I have a second?
Second?
Have a move and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Betsy? No. Thank you very much. And Diane Corey sent me an email asking for, she's asking all the departments for alternates for the Transportation Advisory Council. And are you on
I
it,
think
Ron?
I am, but I've never heard anything from them, so I was surprised they're looking for alternates, because I've never been, that's the main one, I've never heard anything from them, so, don't know what the story is, but.
Do you want to talk to her about it and find out, maybe,
Is it Diane Curry?
yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
Who chairs it?
maybe for some reason they don't have your name, or I don't know.
I don't know, so I thought so.
But, so, I think we'll table the alternate till we find out if
Yeah,
they
if
even know that Betsy's on it.
Yeah, that's probably why they're looking for alternates, because people aren't showing up, because maybe they have the wrong,
But Diane
Who's-
should know how
who's
to.
chair- is it a chaired
Diane Curry should know how to get
council?
hold of me.
I think it's Gary LaCroix, right?
What is it?
Is it Gary LaCroix?
Who's, okay,
Yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't think, they haven't met yet.
Oh, okay.
they haven't met yet, and they're looking,
Okay.
okay, I'm gonna table that.
So you're-
Star next to that.
So we're at 100% attendance.
I'll table this until Betsy comes back with the recommendation.
I'll check
Fair
them
enough?
tomorrow.
Is that-
There we go.
Okay. Member updates, maybe just go around the table if, yeah.
No, I'm fine.
You're the new chair of the PMBC?
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah,
So,
how about that?
very good.
Well, there were only, what, 4 of us on the committee, so.
You didn't
Just
show
by
up at that
default.
meeting and you got. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
All righty. Gary, anything?
No,
Okay. Betsy?
The Space Needs Group is still floundering a bit. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night, which has now been canceled. So what we're doing at the moment is finalizing a request for qualifications for OPM. I'm looking at a proposed town hall, community center, library complex, using the current footprint of the area that we're currently on to include ball field and all that stuff. So looking to get that out sometime in the next couple, 3 weeks. So that's kind of the long-term solution. Short-term solutions, we're not there yet, so.
Okay. Well, I would try to put the gas pedal down on this one because the library is now number 1 on the list. And potentially, it could come, the funding could come in any time.
Right.
If one of the other projects that didn't get awarded refuses it, that it's likely to come in pretty soon. If not pretty soon, probably by next May. So we
Well-
need to at least have,
If that project, the money comes in, then the project goes to the voters, and it's an affirmative vote, then that's step 1 in our
Well, it can be a tiered process, I guess,
Yeah.
regardless,
And-
right? So I just think that for the sake of, well, both projects, if it truly looks like it's a need, which I think a lot of it is, for sure, but you want, in other words, we're talking about a senior center,
No, they're talking about a community center.
community center, we need, we don't want it to look like an either-or type situation, and we need to really push this as a package, I think, as a campus. We need all of this, it's all going to be addressed, I mean, and it's gonna be a hunk of change.
It's, yeah,
So
it's not gonna be easy, because it is a lot of money.
yeah. But I think
But you face it,
yeah,
if the library thing goes, then
yeah,
that frees up some space that can temporarily be used
Yeah.
until step 2 of the,
yeah.
you know.
Anthony?
Yeah, just.
Yeah, you want to come up
just-
a little bit?
just
My
to
old
see-
ears can't hear that far.
No problem. So just for an update, that RFQ for OPM, Owner's Project Manager, is going before the selectmen on Monday night to vote, approve, me sending it out. My intention is getting it out on that Tuesday, which is the 14th.
Okay.
And then we'll give it 30 days for the process and hopefully award it. We'll have a bid opening, I believe it's gonna be September 18th. I think that's a Tuesday. And do interviews for the OPM and then have somebody aboard. Probably will take, I don't know, 2-3 months. I think that's what the library did about that
Pretty
time. And then we'll get to the next step, which is the going out to bid for design and schematics of what that might look like.
So that has to go through central register, right?
Yeah.
We'll make next time meeting.
So does that include a library or does it not include a library? I've heard different things on
Yeah.
this, where this is.
So I think what the committee had decided is we were gonna include all of the documents that the library already did to include with the OPM for him to look at and help us determine what that option would be.
Okay. All right, that's good from my standpoint, I just wanted to know. We're not,
Okay.
it's not necessarily 2 different steps, it could be one, depending which way we go.
Right, yeah. It's
And the law requires that we have an OPM on board before we select a designer.
right, any building project that's over $1.5 million, section, Mass General Law, section, chapter 149, section 44.5 requires an OPM to be on board.
This is over 1.5 million, wait,
Yeah, it's gonna be over.
Totally gonna be over 1.5.
I think the shed over there will cost 1.5 prevailing wage, so yeah, we're gonna hit that threshold for sure.
yeah.
Well, the ticket booth costs 38. We
Stop.
ought to be able to.
Yeah, and the only other thing is, the Park and Rec is going to do some perk tests, at a parcel at, near Long Lake, to see what the feasibility for, if it can take a septic system there, so the selectmen will be voting on that as well on Monday night. to allow
But this
that.
is double tiered.
Just to see
If it
what's
works.
possible, if it works, it's just a testing, it's land that we own, so it's under the control of the Board of Selectmen, so they're just gonna authorize that, and we'll go ahead and, it'll just be another discussion the week after, but for, next time the Space Needs Committee.
Curious, what does something like that cost? What is that, to figure that out, the perk test? Because I'm just curious, I have no idea.
You know what, I don't know.
Okay,
Like 5 or 10 grand.
was that, you think it's that much?
I
Just-
know.
just curious,
What'd you
okay.
say?
Is that site uphill from where the facility would be, so it would have to pump it?
Yeah, it would probably require the grinder pump to push it
Yeah.
through, yeah. Yeah, if it's work, if it's doable, that site's doable. You know, they'd have to bore a pipe underneath the,
Parking
under the street to that parcel, so, we'll see. Just another step in the process of determining where we
You know
go.
your options, though.
Yeah.
We should look at putting town hall on pontoons and floating over Long Lake.
I'm in.
Yeah, eat fish at lunch.
There you go.
Right?
Right, fish and chips. yeah.
That's great.
When it comes through.
Salad, yeah, all set, huh?
So I wanna go home.
All righty, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Okay, anything else? Okay, I had two things. One is that under the sewer study, Senator Jamie Eldridge got a earmark for Littleton Smart Sewer plugged into the state budget, which apparently has been signed, for up to $6 million.
Tied into the environmental bond bill.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not budget per se.
But what having an earmark means is little or nothing, because unless you have the director of, this is what, on the environmental side?
Yes.
Director of
Yeah.
DOE. Unless he has control over all the money that's under his pot, and he has to fund all of the grants out of that and earmarks out of that. So it really comes down to, can you convince this one
What gets cut, what
individual,
doesn't.
you know, how much of the money, if any, you can get from. So there's, you know, it sounds really wonderful, but until you get over that next hump, which is a pretty major hump, it's really not worth much of anything. So that's something that really needs to be looked at as the sewer project comes forward. You know, it's an if-then kind of statement in the old Fortran world.
Right. It's a hunk of change.
For those of you that remember Fortran, right?
Like a do loop.
Yeah. And the other thing I had was, as I think everybody knows, Keith Bergman has put in his resignation, effective January, I believe,
It's retirement.
and his retirement. Under town bylaw, there is a 5-person board or committee, selection committee is put together. And the chair of this group is a member of the Board of Selectmen, is a member of the Finance Committee, appointed by the Finance Committee, member of the School Committee, appointed by the School Committee, member of the Personnel Committee, appointed by the Personnel Committee, and a member at large with municipal management experience, whatever that means, appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So it's a 5-person board. And I just wanted us to start thinking about, you know, who would like to do it. We can't vote tonight, it's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to get it up, because I assume the selectmen will have that on their agenda, if not Thursday, if not the 13th.
They will have it
It
on
is
the
on the 13th, okay. So they'll probably start the ball rolling on the 13th, and we could actually vote. I can put it on the agenda for our joint meeting on the 20th and vote then, so we won't be holding up the process. So you know, I'll open it to the table just for discussion. And
Well, I mean, I'm interested in the committee.
Yeah.
I serve on this board and the personnel, so I haven't sat with them. We haven't had a meeting since this really developed, so I don't know what their feelings are on who. But I would definitely be willing to sit on it in some capacity.
okay. Do you think you would be appointed by the personnel board? Would you?
Yeah, that's
you
the thing. I
think-
guess if this is just discussion, without having that meeting.
Yeah, no, that's.
We would need definitely an alternate here. So,
Okay.
How many people are on the personnel committee?
we have, yeah, 7, so.
When we did this the last time, when we hired Keith, I was the chairman of this committee, and I took that assignment. So if the chairman is interested, I would say that he should probably represent this board. But we can discuss it further.
Okay. I know that Greg is interested. He called me and when, I emailed this bylaw to everybody so they can review it. So Greg is also interested.
I've been there, done that, so I am not interested.
You just rolled the grenade across the table.
Right.
I'm responsible for Keith, so I'll back off.
Good selection.
So,
So did you say the bylaw states that a member of the BOS is chairing it?
yep.
Interesting. And then they make the final selection as well.
Life is not fair in the world of politics.
Well, the selection committee makes a recommendation, I would assume.
Right, of the,
Yeah.
let's see,
It's
it's
just
what,
odd
At
that
least
the
two.
BOS would be the chair. The
right.
BOS section is the chair, and then they go back to the
And they have
BOS
to-
and they make the
They
final.
probably
And
make
they
it
have to-
bylaw.
Bring at least two people forward. It's not like they choose one.
The
bring them forward,
subcommittee
like
does,
that.
yeah.
yeah.
So, well,
So, okay, we'll think about it. And I'm not particularly interested in doing it, to be honest with you. But if that's the will of the group, I'll do it. But I think you're certainly qualified. Greg is really, he's interested in being the finance committee member. So I think we just need to wrestle it to the ground by the 20th.
Can you get
That's okay.
posters?
yep.
Put up posters?
I mean, you guys are familiar, I mean, usually something like this, you go in, okay, so this is kind of a change, or it could be a big change or not. So besides just finding somebody, you kind of say, well, what does the town need next, right? Who does those kind of things? Who puts that together? Is that the subcommittee? Is it the
Yeah.
board of selectmen, or who?
So really, I mean, what you're looking at, I mean, the bylaw, first of all, when I saw it, I realized it was written before we had an assistant. So it's kind of interesting, it didn't
Okay.
rewrite the bylaw, either saying that we should look at the assistant first, or saying that the selectmen should have some flexibility, there's none,
Right.
looking at
Right.
that, so, as written.
Yeah,
And it's not going to change before, it couldn't change before the 29th of October if anybody wanted it to change.
Unless somebody forced a bylaw change.
Well,
which would
that
have to-
bylaw can only
Town
be
meeting.
changed by town.
Right, that's what I mean, it would have to.
So, I mean, it's, you know,
So, so the subcommittee really looks at the position description, looks at all the HR policies of the position, and then puts the announcement together.
but I'm thinking about things, you want someone who's like Keith, who's really into the politics and the
Yeah,
state,
it's-
or you get local, or you need someone who's really knowledgeable in this particular area, or, those kind of things.
Yeah, it's kind of, well, the BOS kind of charges you with what they want, and then as a committee, we look at the position description. It is what it is.
Right.
Well, that tells us what the town
Yeah,
is
but-
looking for. I know, everyone has their own, but what you might feel is a good town admin, the next person next to you
Well,
might
just
say, well,
get-
I'd rather have someone that really knows Littleton. Well, I'd rather have someone with 20 years of.
Right, yeah.
So I guess it's kind of, and that's kind of the discussions that take place on the committee. And then, but that's after, the announcement goes out. We can all pretty much agree on wording after a while and stuff. But once it goes out, it comes back. I'm basing this off the police, how we
Yeah,
did the police
right.
chief. And then you get your applicants in, and at that point, because there was so many, we did a subcommittee to screen those initial ones, for
So how
eligibility.
long did that process take?
Well, let's see, we formed that group, it went pretty quick. I would say December, or late November, it was formed, the subcommittee.
First meetings were in December.
Yeah, and then when did Chief Pinard,
April.
so it's pretty, it's not a bad, I would say 5 months at the most would be the whole process from start to finish. But once again, we had 41. I don't know how many out there. I look, when this came up, I was looking at a couple of the other towns recently that did it, Maynard. There's a few other towns that it went out. There's not a ton, surprisingly, there's not a ton out there of experience.
And there are a lot of towns, I was talking with Keith, Lexington, I think he's said Westford, I'm not sure about Westford, but I know Lexington, Boxborough just turned theirs over,
Yeah.
and maybe Acton are all gonna be looking at the same time, so.
Yeah, so we'll be looking at a lot of those same resumes, probably that those towns looked at, if it does go out. But it's, I learned a lot, I think, from the process, so if I could be on the board in some capacity, I think.
But I agree with Betsy, looking at this,
Yeah,
in terms, if this is sort of the job description, I think it's a pretty wimpy job description for a town administrator
yeah,
as active as Littleton is. So if that's what we're going by, I'd say don't bother. To be perfectly honest with you, I think it's up to the selectmen and maybe you guys or whoever this subcommittee is get together and
yeah, no,
write a
we
meaningful
will.
job description.
There is a full formal job
There
description.
is, yeah, an actual
That's
position.
not the job description.
Yeah,
Okay,
that Ann-
okay,
that Ann
'cause
has.
this
Yeah,
is
the
not-
personnel board with the consultant created them in the last year.
Yeah.
So-
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's, and so that will, I guess we could have that blessed off again by Board of Selectmen, and they can talk about,
Yeah, I mean,
What they-
whatever, you know, or what slant or
Yeah.
what experience they would weight heavier than the other. So you're not bringing somebody with this experience and they want that experience.
right. And then there'll be discussions, you know, with the chief of police, we went outside, we went nationwide. You know, this job is probably a little bit different, where do we want to go outside Massachusetts even, because mass laws and, you know, all of our, so it's just, it brings a lot of different questions into it. So, but, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the selectmen, I think, come up with I know with the chief of police, they came up with a statement, basically, on top of the position description of what, specifics of what we were supposed to do and what we were looking for, I think, and that kind
Okay.
of,
All right.
And there was a specific focus when they hired Keith. I
Yeah.
remember the board talking about their goals and what they wanted
It was a
to.
switch.
accomplish, and it was.
This is very different from what we've done before, so.
so that's really the board's job, it's really not even to get involved in that as much as just what BOS charges the board with, and then from that, we,
Well, you know,
I mean,
in
keep
the
the
11
personalities out
years
of
or
it.
so that Keith has been here, this town has grown
Oh, absolutely.
unbelievably in terms of municipal services and
Yeah.
operations, organization. It's
Yeah.
nothing like it was the day we hired him.
Right. All righty, well, give it some thought, and I could schedule a meeting for half hour before the joint meeting. We could talk about it, vote, and then.
And Gary will know by then more, maybe which way the
Yeah,
personnel
we'll
committees that look
Yeah,
going
let
too.
me talk to
so-
those guys, I'll just kind of, because it's not, well, we're not talking about anything that needs form, but just kind of conversation like we're having now, I think, just to get who's interested, and then
Right.
have a better idea.
Okay,
I can circulate the job description so that at least you have the formal one. for the
yeah,
TA
I'd like to
position.
see it if we're, going to be using that as a benchmark. If anybody else is interested, you're welcome to. Just send it out to everybody,
Yep,
if you
I
don't
will.
mind, and then I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, anything else from member updates? No? Okay, minutes,
There's two lots that I have here,
okay, you have,
April 3rd and June 12th.
right? Can I see those, just,
Did these go out to us?
They went out quite a while ago, because Fred sent me notes on both of those that
Right.
they looked okay to him.
Yeah, it was, okay, I remember both, just looking at them, I can tell that I was,
okay, let's see.
yeah.
Yeah, just as a, okay, on June 12th, we had Greg, Alan, Betsy, Fred, Gary, and Tom. Steve was not here. Basically, we spent that meeting with the auditor, and he had his comments there. And we had dashboard discussion, member updates, and then the board reorg, where I get roped into being chair again. So entertain a motion on the minutes for June 12th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of June 12th as written. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? One abstention because he wasn't here. Okay, and the April 3rd minutes are, again, just to refresh people's memories, Water Department, Nick came in and he talked about the $356,000 for Cobb Well on the pumping. Brief sewer update, and we talked about the warrant articles where we recommended the articles for town meeting. And we said we would take up Article 8, Motion 2, and Article 9, Motion 2 on May 3rd. And I don't think we did because the articles were pulled.
Yep. I missed
So we didn't have a meeting before the town meeting. So I'll look for a motion to accept the minutes for April 3rd as written.
This is the May 3rd one, is the other one, right?
it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yep.
so moved.
Second. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the minutes for April 3rd, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And we have one set of minutes that Greg put together, which was the meeting of May 3rd, 2018. It's a meeting we had at the fire station. It was a joint meeting held with the Board of Selectmen. We discussed the following: Littleton Commons Smart Sewer, Annual Town Meeting Article 8. The article was removed from the warrant, so there's no vote taken there. We discussed the Long Lake Bathhouse construction project. Park and Rec decided to remove that article to do more research. There was no vote taken there. We discussed the CPC Baker Homestead on 12 Robinson Way, and Fincom unanimously recommended the annual town meeting, Article 9, Item 9. And we discussed the funding of the collective bargaining, and we approved that going forward, or recommended that go forward to town meeting. And that was it for that meeting. So the two items that we talked about were the Baker Homestead and the funding of the collective bargaining. So if I could have a...
Fred, the only
Yep.
thing that's missing are the attendees, and I think everybody was in attendance.
Yeah, it was a full house.
Yes, we were.
And it was not a unanimous vote because I voted against it.
Against the,
Baker has.
Baker.
okay,
The house on Robinson Road.
Yep.
okay, so it was 6-1 vote Maryland instead of unanimous. So if you can amend that. Okay, great, thank you, Ellen. Okay, have a motion?
So motion
Or
to-
is there any discussion on the minutes?
Motion to approve the May 3rd, 2018 minutes for the FinCom meeting with the amendments as discussed.
Second.
Second? Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay. We'll assume that we're in pretty good shape on the minutes now. We get them all up. Great. Thank you. Anything else before I ask for my favorite motion?
The next meeting is a joint meeting And you mentioned we might meet earlier than 7 to discuss.
That's what, I'll take input up to a week before the meeting. So if you and Greg
Okay.
or anybody else that's interested.
Okay, so BOS is discussing this next Monday?
They are.
They are, okay. Just wanted to make sure that it
So
was.
are we going to meet at 6:30 then, instead of 7?
They usually start
Maybe
at 6:30, right?
on
Start
the
at
20th. We're scheduled for the 20th,
Yeah,
not on the 13th. So,
I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. I don't think it's necessary for us to scramble just to do that, because they still have to get their act together.
Yeah,
But I think by the 20th, if we can have a recommendation, then that'd be fine. So at this point, I'd say we will meet with the selectmen on the 20th, and we may meet at 6:30 to discuss this appointment. Okay, and I'll try to give people a heads up, because I'll have to put the agenda together
these 3 days.
if we're going to do that.
That will depend on where we are on the Board of Selectmen agenda, because they usually start at 6:30,
Right.
right?
I do.
Okay.
Isn't personnel meeting before that? I think they're meeting the 16th.
Yeah, we were going to meet this week, but it got pushed, so we're waiting on it.
So I think it's the
Classification.
16th or something.
Yeah, so I think we'll be pushing, but I'll actually put out an email, just kind of let
Yeah,
them know.
yeah, I mean, whatever, and see
Yeah.
what, I mean, and,
Because at that meeting, we should be voting on it from the personnel board as well, so, right?
okay,
I mean, we have to,
Yeah.
if we wanted to get this,
Keep going.
if the
right.
BOS on Monday
wants to get going.
puts it together
Then we
and says,
then we won't be holding it up.
so,
Okay, so stay tuned for further news on whether we meet at 6:30 or 7. Yeah, let's see.
Or 6.
The selects, I'm sorry.
Yeah, doesn't the BOS usually
Yeah, so
start
6 or
at
6:30 is really what we're looking at.
They start at 6:30.
Yeah, so, because they run early meetings, earlier meetings. 'Cause they usually get out.
Oh, they,
It's
okay,
so late, I know. It's a longer meeting.
all righty. Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Better not say it. Adjourn. Thank you.